Welcome to a DLLS VOD, which is video on demand for short and from a short guy like me. So we're going to be doing a view from the opposing sideline here. And to help us with that, we're going to have Chris Easterling from the Akron Beacon-Journal. He covers the Cleveland Browns for Gannett, Ohio as well. Chris, how you doing?
Not too bad. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm excited that football's finally here, and we can finally put all the narratives away, and we can actually see some football. And I think we got a good one, Chris, coming on Sunday.
I do too. One, you got the mark. I think it's the marquee matchup of Sunday. I think there's all sorts of storylines in this game, and you throw in the greatest of all time in the broadcast booth, just a little extra, cherry on top of the ice cream sundae.
So I actually went to the same high school as Tom Brady, so I'm kind of been trying to see if I can maybe get an exclusive there on Sunday. We'll see if that actually happens or not. But speaking of storylines, Chris, there are so many to talk about. First, a little bit of news. Jedrick Wills is back at practice, the starting left tackle for the Browns, but he might not play, it sounds like, or at least not start. Can you kind of give us a little bit of an update on where things stand with that?
My guess is he doesn't play at all. I think this was the week to kind of get him back. He's been out since November with a knee injury. He had a scope in, I'm trying to remember, mid-December, and then, they thought they might get him back in training camp. He didn't. They just got him back this week. Yesterday was the first time practicing. So my guess is he doesn't play. So it's either going to be Jack Conklin, who's never played left tackle in the NFL, really, moving to left tackle. Now, when he was at college at Michigan State, he did play him. Or it's James Hudson III, who he's got about 70 snaps at left tackle, and he's a fourth-year pro. And he's kind of been part of the reason why left tackle was such a concern during training camp, because he's had his struggles, and it's well documented. He filled in at right tackle a couple of times against T.J. Watt, and it did not go well. Famously won Monday night in Pittsburgh a couple of years ago. Baker Mayfield spent more time on the turf than he did upright, in part because of James going against TJ. So that's sort of the predicament they're in, that spot. But I would feel almost a little bit more confident, even though Jack hasn't played it in the NFL, that if it was him, there would at least be somebody who has played the position and has played well, and just in the NFL in general. I mean, you're talking about a two-time All-Pro over if it was James Hudson.
Mm-hmm. Hypothetically, if they were to move Conklin to left tackle, what would be the subsequent chain reaction to that, you think?
Well, DeJuan Jones filled in for Jack last year because Jack's also coming off of a season-ending knee injury. He suffered a major. He basically tore every ligament in his knee in the season opener last year. So DeJuan Jones, who was a fourth round draft pick out of Ohio State last year, stepped right in and really played well. He was sort of the antithesis of James Hudson. He really did well against guys like T.J. Watt, Nick Bosa. So I think they feel that's why they would feel confident in moving Jack to left tackle, is because they've got a guy in DeJuan Jones who, they've seen in action and seen him play well. And he started, I want to say, 9 games last year, but before, again, it was a story of the Browns season last year. They lost into a knee injury in December. So, but he's the guy I think they have confidence in. So that would be really the only chain reaction if they were to put Jack at right tackle. And I'm not even convinced that Jack necessarily may start at right tackle if it's James Hudson. Because DeJuan has played all training camp, but that would be my guess if Jack was at left tackle.
So a lot of variables up in the air, and it's ironic because hypothetically Jack Conklin has never played left tackle in the NFL. The same goes for Tyler Guyton, and obviously he's moving from right tackle to left tackle for the Dallas Cowboys, their first-round pick. And he's got a challenge that, since his schedule has come out, Chris, we've been circling, oh, wait, welcome to the NFL, Rook, because you have the reigning Defensive Player of the Year across from you. What do you expect from Myles Garrett. Has he talked about, hey, going up against a rookie, going up against this offensive line? What do you expect from the reigning Defensive Player of the Year going up against a guy who says he's ready for the challenge, but obviously it's going to be a tough one?
Uh, you never. Well, one, Miles hasn't talked a lot about this game because we don't normally get Miles until Fridays of game weeks. I did have a sit down with him last week for about 10 minutes, but really didn't get into Dallas. But he did mention he was asked about Dallas during training camp. The one time he talked during training camp, and the grin on his face said it all. All he said was, "That's home." It's home. So I think just the fact he's playing the Cowboys is enough motivation for Miles, and put him up against the left tackle who's a rookie. We can. I mean, it's sort of like projecting what Micah might do against whoever's at tackle for the Browns. I mean, how many times have we seen it that this matchup looks terrible, and it turns around and the rookie holds his own. Like I said before about DeJuan Jones, blocking T.J. Watt and not giving up a sack to him in 2 games last year. I mean, that's something that if this kid is as good as advertised, maybe he just rises to the challenge and holds his own against Miles. But I expect Miles is going to get his. I think Miles is really looking, kind of chomping at the bit to get out there and show that the narrative that was around his DPOY last year, that he didn't really earn it or whatever. The arguments you hear them from Watt supporters and whatnot. I think that he's going out on a mission, and I mean, if you just watch him in joint practice going against Christian Darrisaw, he made Darrisaw look like a rookie. So maybe maybe I'll go back and think, yeah, maybe it might be a tough day for Guyton, but we shall see.
Yeah, Garrett, of course, is an Arlington Martin alum. He has one of those most famous like high school, photos of like, hey, this is a guy that's a future NFL pick, and then versus just like a normal high school guy. And Myles Garrett's been dominant since day one. He, of course, is also competing with a guy like Micah Parsons for Defensive Player of the Year. It might be a race to 3 sacks to see who gets Defensive Player of the Year in Week 1, Chris. Who Micah Parsons will be going up and trying to sack, though, is Deshaun Watson, of course, who obviously in and out last season, healthy, a little bit unhealthy. How is he approaching this? I know you talked with him earlier this week. How is he preparing to get back into the starting lineup and go up against a Cowboys defense that's eager to get after him?
I think he's just excited to get back out there and play. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, really going all the way back to his last year in Houston, he hasn't played a lot, and it sort of shows in the rust. He's looked rusty. I mean, he's looked rusty in training camp. And I think it's not so much the arm talent. I think the arm talent's there. The shoulder looks okay that he injured last November, but I think it's just that mental clock that in the quarterback's head, where to feel the pressure, when to move around the pocket. I just think that you only play 12 games in 3 seasons. That it can't help but impact that, and you kind of noticed it watching them. When you watched them in the joint practices against the Vikings, that there was the timing is still just off a little bit, and I think that's the biggest thing that could work to not just Micah Parsons but everybody, that entire Mike Zimmer defense, is that he's it's going to be his first game back in live action since that Baltimore game last November, and he's just going to be there's just going to be rust, and there's just going to be timing issues and all of that. So that's what I'm fascinated to see. But he talked, he said all the right things, I guess, yesterday when he spoke, and he talked about the emotions and everything. But I think I'm going to be fascinated. I mean, it's the big question on this Browns team, because I think if you look around everywhere else, it's a pretty good roster, but they just have this massive question mark at the quarterback position, and that sort of overwhelms everything else.
Yeah, Mike Zimmer versus Jim Schwartz, by the way, Chris, is a defensive matchup I'm really looking forward to. Another thing, though, that's going to be on Mike Zimmer's hands is with this Cowboys run defense, is kind of remodeled run defense, is stopping the run. And no Nick Chubb, we know that. I think was kind of a wipe off the brow for Cowboys fans to know that they won't have to face him. But Jerome Ford, Deontay Foreman, Pierre Strong. What do you make of this Browns running game heading into Week 1?
They had a good job last year of kind of cobbling together a decent run game with Ford, with Strong. At that time, it was Kareem Hunt, was still here. And I think they have, they're going to run the football because that's just what they do. Their offensive line, regardless is that who's at left tackle. Batonio, Teller at the guards, Postage at center. It's a good run blocking. It's a good run blocking offensive line, and I think the scheme's good. Even though we haven't seen the full new offense with Ken Dorsey yet, but I think they're going to be effective enough and good enough in that. They're not Nick Chubb, but Jerome Ford, he has a little burst, and more importantly, he's got a value in the pass game, and I think that's where more than anything Jerome could make an impact. Is he catches the ball very well, and he's a very good receiver out of the backfield. So that's something to kind of watch for with this Browns backfield this Sunday.
So, last question before I get a prediction from you, a little teaser there, Chris. Last question. I'd be remiss if I did not ask about Amari Cooper and the potential revenge game here. Not too long ago, the Cowboys shipped him off for just a 5th-round pick. That kind of maybe would have signaled maybe he's kind of in a decline, and in fact, he's just been playing really, really well the last 2 years. What do you make of Amari Cooper going up against his old team, a team that once traded him for a 5th-round pick?
I think we're supposed to talk to Amari today, so I'm fascinated. We haven't talked to him since the first day of training camp. I think in part because there was a lot of conversation about him and the 49ers, and potentially being in a Brandon Ayuk deal. So we really haven't talked to Amari, but it's Amari, and you saw him in Dallas. It's the consummate pro. It's the consummate. He's just a master at route running, a master at doing the little things. And my guess is he's got a little something for the Cowboys. He's going to want to do a little something to the Cowboys because, he heard Jerry talk about him after he left. And so if he had a chance to maybe, stick it to Dallas, I have no doubt that he will. He's just not going to, he's not going to gloat about it, maybe, or maybe not be as openly gloating about it as some other receivers might be.
Mm-hmm. A lot of weapons on that Browns offense between him, Jerry Jeudy, Elijah Moore, David Njoku. So even though there's no Nick Chubb, there's plenty of talent to go around. And obviously with that receiving core, they might be going up against rookie Kalen Carson, no Deron Bland, Trayvon Diggs coming off a traumatic injury. That'll be another interesting matchup. But Chris, let's wrap it up here with a prediction. Cowboys are 2.5-point underdogs, which on the road kind of makes it almost a push, which feels right. What are you predicting in terms of a score to put you on the spot a little bit? What are you expecting from Sunday to be the big difference maker as well?
I think the big difference maker is going to be who keeps their quarterback upright better. I think that ultimately will be the deciding factor. If Dak or Deshaun, which one has more time to sit in the pocket and throws. But I'll go. I think that 2.5 is the right number. You can tell me this game goes anyway, but I'll go Browns 20, Cowboys 17, just because this defense at home can be special, and they kind of feed off that home crowd, even though there are going to be a ton of Cowboys fans, I know. But I'll go 2017 Browns, and it's Myles Garrett 3 sacks.
Yeah, I think, Chris, from a defensive standpoint, it's going to be great. For some reason, that defense at Cleveland feels faster on grass than turf. It's one of those misnomers. It's going to be an exciting one. But Chris, thank you so much. Everyone, Cowboys fans, if you want some great insight from the opposing sideline, go follow Chris on Twitter, formerly Twitter X, at C Easterling ABJ. That's at C Easterling ABJ. Chris, thank you so much for taking time and giving us a view from the opposing sideline.
Hey, thanks for having me on.